Shane, we are live. It is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. Another episode of Manic and Chill. How you doing, my friend?
Bro, we didn't do an intro.
That was the intro. It's
No,
just a cold intro. I'm saying hi to you.
There's an intro video.
Yeah, the intro video doesn't work anymore, remember?
Oh, that's right. Never mind.
So you were not prepared to start for 15 seconds. You had to get whatever you had to get out of your system. But no, how are you doing? It's been a little while since we've done a show. We've done some roster reviews. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's been a week since Manic and Chill. We haven't done a mock draft. Haven't done anything but roster reviews. So how you doing?
I'm good. It's going to be nice to talk to you without the weirdness of a third gentleman in the room with us. It's just some one-on-one action between me and you. But yeah, it was all roster reviews since last week, man. Now back to Manic and Chill, man. Happy to be here. You?
We'll put this up there. They'll be on the website, hopefully by the end of the month. Roster reviews. Literally, we've done a roster review pretty much every night for the last week. So they're coming in fast. But in terms of exactly what you get, there'll be a promo video, there'll be a description, all that kind of stuff. But in the meantime, manicandchillreview.com, if you're interested in a roster review, we've done a couple of them on the channel, so you can kind of see what they're about. We go through trades, we go through the war, we go through pretty much anything you want us to do regarding your specific roster. But no, I want to talk about deals. We had free agency. I've started to get a little more active in my leagues just because it kind of feels like there's this, I don't want to say dead period, but there's this month where pretty much all the information that we have today is what we're going to have a month from now. There's not a combine, there's not a senior bowl, there's not really anything to change opinions other than a random pro day here or there. So I think you can start acting on some pre-draft information and making some bets now, because obviously things are going to change once we see running back landing spots, quarterback landing spots, etc. But I want to talk about different types of trades, not specific trades. Yes, you can put your trades in the chat if you want. We will get to some trades. We may or may not have a different type of show coming pretty soon where we just answer trades, but we want to take some trades on this show. So if you have them, put them in the chat. But I want to talk about types of trades.
Okay.
And I brought you this topic, Shane, because on these roster reviews, we are doing reviews for people with all different types of formats, right?
Yep.
We're doing 10 teams, start 9, 1 QBs. We're doing 12 by 12 best balls. We're doing pretty much anything you can think of that people ask on streams. People are bringing rosters and saying, what do I do? And what organically comes from that is, depending on where the manager is, depending on their appetite for risk, comes different types of trade ideas. And sometimes for the same roster and the same manager, we're actually looking at 2 totally different types of trades. Like, hey, you have 7 first-round picks over the next 2 years. You don't really have to make them. What does it look like to push them in? What would I be targeting? Even if my team isn't quite ready to win, but I want to make a move and I don't want to just tank a year, what does that look like? And then there's obviously different types of deals where you're trying to sell, you're trying to tier up, trying to tier down. So what comes to your mind when I say types of dynasty trades? Like, when I said, Shane, this is the topic, what came into your head?
Oh, it was the tear down. It was the process trade. It was Sean put it right here. The cross-positional baby. I love cross-positional trades because to me, those are probably the easiest trades to make. You have a need here. I have a need there. We fit like puzzles and just stick it in. So I like cross-positional trades. What? Jesus, Scott, get your mind out of the gutter. Cross-positional trades. But yeah, no, I mean, the process deals is the first thing that comes to mind to me. That's the first thing that comes to mind, that you give me this and a pick and I'll give you that, which is basically in the same tier, but for whatever reason, the market likes it better than I do. Or I should say values it more than I do.
Okay, well, we're going to share Dynasty data here in a little bit. We're actually going to show some of the deals in action, and we'll use the filters. It's a really cool tool, the trade database. You can look at the tool with different filters. So we can try to find some of these trades and gives examples of what we're talking about. But when you say process trade, what do you mean? Like, there's tons of processes, but when I say, Shane, what is a process trade? How would you define that if you gave some characteristics to what's involved?
Well, I mean, so the process trade's probably all inclusive of a lot of different trades, right? It probably isn't all inclusive of the tear down, but you know what? No, I mean, it's probably most descriptive of the tear down trade, where I'm trading player X, CD Lamb, for AJ Brown, but I'm getting something in addition to AJ Brown to add to that, right? And generally, I'm doing deals like that in a larger lineup league, or depending on my roster, if my roster is in need of multiple pieces. So, I mean, to me, that's the true essence of the process trade. To me, when we talk about process trades, that's what I'm talking about. Moving a running back for another running back, but getting something on top, getting a running back that someone thinks has future value for a running back that has now value in another pick or something like that, so that I can use the additional assets that I have to continue building to the roster.
So let's take I want this to actually be a show where we talk strategy, because I think a lot of podcasts, a lot of shows out there, they don't really dive into the why behind some of these process trades. It's obvious. It's fucking obvious when it's a start 8 that you want to get the best player. But why? So we're not going to talk about that because it's obvious.
Math.
You want to get the best player.
Math, right?
Right.
Because 1/8,
so
there's one player in an start 8 has a higher impact than one player in a start 11. It's obvious, right? To us.
But what happens if what if you pulled 10 people and the 2 players involved in the trade, half of them thought one was better and half of them thought the other was better, and one of them had 20% more value in a start 8? Does it matter?
It would still matter.
Shane, I will give you, in a start 9, I will give you Tony Pollard and a third for James Conner.
Do I think Tony Pollard and James Conner are the same though? That's
for
part of the problem.
Well, I'm just asking you if you thought they were the same.
If you thought they were the same, yes. You take James Conner and the additional asset, or whichever.
So in that case, the starters are irrelevant, right?
In
the first thing you have to determine are the players I'm getting, do they even matter in my format, right? Yeah. And if the answer is, yeah, I have a place I can start one of those guys, the process trade is you're getting something back, right? It's the old leverage trade where you're trying to just fill the same gap that you're trading away with something similar, and probably having to take advantage of someone that has a different opinion of those players than you do, but you're willing to bet, hey, these guys are about the same. I'll take a free third, or I'll take a free trade up in the draft, or I'll take another running back where you throw me back another backup running back or a backup quarterback or something like that. Like, that's the process. That the number of starters there doesn't matter, right? If it's a start 12, you may do the same trade. It's just maybe on a lower level of players, because in a start 12, there's a lower number of players there's a lower level of players at the bottom of your lineup that still matter because you have to start more players. Does that make sense? Yes. So the process part is really looking at each player, the roster spot they fit in. And if you're like, hey, these guys are kind of the same, then I'll take the free pick. And that's usually based on the fact the market prefers one over the other. Or in the case of a running back, the market prefers maybe the longevity of another player, do you know how much I care about longevity at running back? 0. I don't care if you're a rookie. I'm not counting your year 3 as part of your value. Now, it's a good belief that a guy that's only in year 2 is probably going to have a longer career than a guy that's in year 7. Mm-hmm. But I'm really not looking at, unless it is a elite player, I'm not looking at a backup second-year running back as going to have a longer shelf life than a 5th-year veteran that's been a starter for 4 years. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take the guy that's just been good already, that he's going to have a longer career than the career backup, even if they're younger. So there's a question in the chat I wanted to put up there. Does the number of starters even matter? How would it need to be for you to want the picks? 14? I mean, that's the other question I wanted to ask you, Shane. In a start 9, do you even care about a third? Why would you still do that trade to get a third? What would be the goal with a process trade? Because I think most people would go, oh, the third doesn't matter there.
It matters.
I'm not doing the deal. But what would be your plan if you made a process trade in a shallow league? Deeper league, obviously. You could buy a starter in a start 14. But in a start 9, you wouldn't really value a third. But why would you still do a process trade?
I mean, I would value the third in the sense that, one, as much as people might say, and even I'll be like, oh, I don't care about a third. A third still greases the wheels on a lot of trades. On a lot of trades, it's let me throw that an additional third to get it done. And I've talked about this in the past, right? When crypto first came out, I think, like, I don't understand crypto, but I know it's worth something. That's kind of how like third and fourth round picks are, right? Like, I don't understand it, but people value it, so I want some. And that's what it is with third and fourth round picks. Like, the hit rates are garbage. In deeper leagues, I want a bunch of those so I can take some dart throw shots. But generally in a shallower league, it's just because I want some additional grease. I need to push someone over, right? How many times have you been in a trade negotiation with someone and you're just there, but you can't get it over the mark? You have like the next thing that you could add to that deal to even it up or get them to move is too much, right? Like, you're adding a full-on starter or a backup quarterback that's a high-end backup quarterback that you don't want to add. So you're like, well, that's all I have. So I can't get this deal over the finish line. I get that third, that magical, beautiful third. I throw that in the deal, and all of a sudden it's just enough to move it. Or it's that liquid asset that I can continue to kick down the road every year. I get a third this year. At some point, I probably can turn that into a second, because this is a whole different thing, but most of us think we're draft experts, NFL draft experts. So when the third round comes in our rookie drafts, our guy's there. We know this guy's going to hit. So I need to move into this draft and get that guy that shouldn't have fell to the third round. Now, not everyone thinks that, but enough people do that you can use that sometimes to move up to a second.
I think it's a good analogy to use like coins. I mean, how many times when you used to pay with cash would you be annoyed when you get back like 15 cents? You know what I mean? A lot of times you just throw that into your cup holder in the car or your glove compartment or whatever. But if you really think about it, that does add up. You know, you do that 10 different times, and there's a chance that maybe you now have $2. You might be able to buy something with $2 and not 15 cents. Now, that's not exactly Dynasty. You can't just take 8 thirds and buy something useful. But if you're willing to kind of make those deals where maybe you have a third and you're able to add it to a player that you want to sell later on and you get a second, or you add it to another deal that gets you something else down the road. I mean, that's why you would do that type of process trade, even in a shallow league. I know you've heard me talk about in really shallow leagues, people oftentimes ask, and we're talking like the 10 teams, start 9, those types of leagues, is how do I rebuild in those leagues, Shane? When you are in a super shallow 1 QB league and you have no picks, and you have, well, maybe you have your own pick, but you don't have like a flush roster worth of picks, and you have no studs. You might even have an average roster. You got a bunch of Xavier Legette's and Keon Coleman's and guys that you took shots on because you thought they could be good, and then it's like very clear that they're not going to matter in a 10-by-9. How do you reboot a roster like that? Especially if I tell you none of the top 30 players in the league are available. You can't tier up. In that case, guess what? The only way you have to reboot your team is what? Volume, right? Just volume of, well, I know statistically in a 10-by-9, the odds that I get a second or a third to turn into a hammer is low. But you don't have any other access. So immediately you're like, my only option is to just draft a ton of players, right? I'm accepting what's the hit rate on the third rounder, Shane? 5 or 1 out of 20?
It's not great, Bob.
On a second, it's 1 out of 15, 1 out of 10. Like, okay, so I have to draft 25 players to hit on 2 or 3. But if there's no other way to get them, that might as well be the approach you take to truly like rebuild. You know what I mean? And that's where, even in a shallower league, that might be the option that you have if you don't have the ability to tier up. Other thoughts on that? Then we'll move on to another type.
No, man. It's Ghost in the Shell, Ghost in the Machine. I don't care about the Shane is right part, but yes, I am. The third got the deal done. It's the illusion of value. That's what it is, right? Someone believes something's worthwhile. It's funny. Me and my brother, we were going to the Flyers game last weekend or the week before, and we were talking about politics. But one of the things we landed on talking about was the illusion. Like, what makes money valuable, right? It's the fact that people value it. So it's like this self-sustaining thing. I don't know what you call that. That's I got all good and I was speaking intelligently, and then I end it with self-sustaining thing. But you know what I mean? It's self-sustaining.
What other deals come to mind? Types of trades. I have a few that I wanted to bring up that we've talked about recently. What about the?
Well,
I mean, go ahead. You go first.
So I have the new one that I've. It's not a new one, right? But it's one that I've embraced more over the last. Definitely over last season. So since at least last season, maybe a little before that, I don't remember. But I will trade a quarterback in a super flex league. I will trade a quarterback for another position, wide receiver, whatever it be, if it's an elite player, because I am going to get the same amount of points, if not better, from that player than I would at the quarterback. So that's kind of cross-positional, but it's also not being beholden to the strictures of a position, right?
Strictures is definitely not a word.
It's a word. Strictures. Look it up.
You're trying to say structure or scriptures, and you
strictures. It's a word. But not being afraid to go, and you've talked about this too. Like, I'm not afraid to go to ugly quarterback in one position in one of those super flex roles, right? You know why? Because I have CD Lamb. He's just going to be my proxy tonight. CD Lamb is who I traded Kyler Murray for. I now have CD Lamb instead of Kyler Murray. CD Lamb outscores Kyler Murray, or it's at least approximate enough that the quarterback, the other positions I'm going to fill in around my CD Lamb and I don't know, Jalen Hurts are going to more than make up for whatever the difference was from moving Kyler.
So this, I think, gets back to the replacement value or replacement level trade. You're trading with the purpose of eventually kind of getting back to replacement value at a position, but you're trying to shift the position over. I mean, a lot of cross-positional trades, to be honest, happen when there's an excess for somebody. Now, let's talk about when there's not an excess, though. It's very easy to go, oh, I have 3 QBs, and I'm just going to trade the one that I don't really want for whatever I can get. A lot of times, the one you don't want is not the one other people want. So immediately you have to start thinking, okay, I have Justin Herbert, I have CJ Stroud, and I have Geno Smith. It's possible Geno Smith is the highest scoring quarterback there over the next year or two. It's possible, not likely. But there's a clear difference in the dynasty value of those 3, right?
Yes.
So the one you can probably trade for something most useful are the 2 you probably don't want to trade. So instead, you're like, okay, instead of just taking a random, let's just say it's a start 10. So let's say 12 by 10. You might not even get a startable player for Geno Smith. Would you agree? Like, you may get a real fringe. Yes. I'm not sure if I'm starting this receiver in my second flex spot type of return back. Yep. You put CJ Stroud or Justin Herbert on the block, and it may not be what you think they could be worth, but you're probably going to have a much better chance at getting a better asset in the other spot. And immediately you're thinking, I'll just slide Geno Smith into that spot. It's the same as if your quarterback market just doesn't value the 1-year stopgap, types like a Derek Carr or Matt Stafford, or players that they're just feel for are going to retire overnight. You can kind of go back to that year after year after year. And if your market just allows you, Shane, if I just had this plan that I have Josh Allen, okay, and I'll just pick up a Derek Carr the day before the season starts every year, I don't even need a second starter until right at the very end. But I have to also allow that my market lets me make that move exactly right before the season. Somebody's willing to sell. Somebody's willing to sell for what I want to buy for. This isn't like I just go to the store and buy it on the shelf. I do have to find somebody else to trade with me. But talk about this when you don't have an excess at a position. So you don't have 2 elite quarterbacks. In fact, you have, let's say you have Kyler and you have Jared Goff. Okay? You don't have a third. Are you still willing to sell Kyler in that circumstance for just a skill player? I'll give you Breece Hall for Kyler.
Probably not Breece, no, because that's also talking about what I should get for a player at this juncture.
I'll give you Nico Collins for Kyler.
Yes, we will get that done.
Okay, so then what do you do once you've made that cross-positional deal? Because I don't think you'll be happy if you just have Jared Goff and nobody else. But what strategies can you do to fill in that gap at that point? Like, what would be your move if you made that deal?
I mean, part of this goes back to the roster construction that we already have and preach too, right? We already have a ton of quarterbacks on our roster. There's already a ton of them on our roster. But, you know, if I need to pay up, I don't know, how much are you willing to pay for Derek Carr? If I just want another quarterback on my roster for, I don't know, the sense of feeling better about myself. The fact that, you know, I only have one legitimate starter. So during bye weeks, I could have no one in that room and I have to start at least one quarterback. So I would say you'd flood you would hit the waiver wire pretty hard in most leagues because there's probably 5 to 6 quarterbacks sitting out there that are rosterable, that are very rosterable. I'm not saying that word right. That should be on rosters that aren't for whatever reason, right? We see it when we're doing the roster reviews, right? We'll see a Gardner Minshew sitting out there, and yes, he sucks, but guess what? He's on Kansas City. We'll see Carson Wentz sitting out there. Yeah, he kind of sucks, but guess what? He's in Cleveland now, right? Didn't he sign with Cleveland? Whatever. He's going to be Kansas City. I thought Wentz went to Cleveland.
No, I thought you were talking about Minshew.
No,
hasn't signed yet.
Yeah, whatever. I'm hitting the waiver wires for that, right? Or yeah, I'll buy a quarterback that people don't like. I'll buy from the low end if I have to, but I'm not going to actually go out of my way to feel that I have to add another quarterback to the room, to be quite honest with you.
So I'm looking at, give me a player. We're going to try to find some cross-positional deals where potentially we see some cross-positional values. Give me a quarterback. Let's look for quarterbacks for skill player trades. Give me a quarterback that you want to search for. I'm putting the last 9 days, and I'm just doing 1-for-1 deals. But give me a quarterback, and we'll look for deals that they were traded for just one asset straight up.
I don't want to do any of the elite ones because that almost feels like
no. Go to the. Go Bo Nix. It's not obvious everybody would want these types of players.
Bo Nix or Trevor Lawrence.
No, let's go Bo Nix. I like that. So we'll go Bo Nix. Let's see 2 asset trades with Bo Nix. Trevor Lawrence for Bo Nix. Okay, that's not one. Okay, here's one. JSN for Bo Nix in a 12x10.
Okay.
You would take Bo Nix there?
2 QB. Oh, 2 QB is not 2 QB. It's just super flex right on there.
Super flex, yeah.
It's half PPR. Yeah, in that case, I'm taking Bo Nix.
Okay. Same thing, half PPR, full PPR, half tight end premium, full PPR. Garrett Wilson for Bo Nix.
Yeah, I'm going to go take G-Dub. Can we get full point PPRs in here?
Let's see what else we got. We got Bo Nix for the 105.
All right, who's the equivalent of 105? Darn it. I'll take.
I guess the reason I wanted to put these trades up is because we don't know the rosters, but let's assume these deals are deals where Bo Nix is your QB1. Okay,
that's different than your QB2 though.
Okay, but let's say your QB2 is Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, somebody you don't feel any much better than Bo Nix with.
Okay.
So you doing this type of deal, even if that's all you have? You have Bo Nix and Brock Purdy. You doing this deal?
Yeah, but it's going to depend on the player, right? I'm not taking back JSN. Now, if this was a full point PPR, I'll take JSN. If this is full point PPR, I'll take Garrett Wilson.
So the PPR matters here for you more so than the player? Okay.
It does.
Give me one more. Let's do a different player.
Yeah, let's do. Someone put Geno Smith in there, right? Or
let's do Geno because
Richardson
moved. He's probably been moved more over the last 9 days since free agency. Let's see some Geno deals. 2 for 2s. Okay, 18 Geno trades. Okay.
Wow.
Geno for Najee. Full PPR. Like you can see where somebody would have done this deal. Do you do this deal if Geno's your QB2, Shane?
You should.
Interesting. You would do this if Geno was your QB2. You would still take Najee.
And well, let me think this through, right? So Najee's basically, I probably need a little more than Najee. I probably do need a little more than Najee.
Okay, so if Geno was your QB4, are you doing this deal?
He's gone.
Okay, so that matters a lot, doesn't it? Your roster construction going into a trade matters a lot. And I think a lot of times, and I used to be guilty of this too, where I would be stuck on this is Geno Smith's value, right? But his value is different to me if I have a pretty good team and he's my QB2 versus he's my QB3. He's my QB4. I have an elite hammer QB at the top of my QB room, and I'm also rostering 10 backups. And some of those backups include, maybe it's a Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, Joe Flacco. Guys, I'm pretty sure, like, if they're on a team, they'll find their way into some starts. Maybe not 16 starts, but they're not pure backups. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you start getting into that, you can patchwork together. Maybe those guys cumulatively don't match exactly Geno Smith, but I bet you it's 90% of it. And you've just basically replaced your QB2 with your roster construction. And I think that goes for running back as well. I mean, how many times have you said, oh man, it's only a start 10. I have 7 usable running backs, not studs, just usable guys, right? I can't start them all. I know every one of them is volatile week to week. Like, let's talk about some liquidation trades. Let's talk about the liquidation trade idea. What do you think about that? Is that something that still happens in leagues? Liquidation, where you just get these guys gone so I can free up some roster spots?
Oh yeah, definitely. You should
How
be.
do you do it? How do you do it?
What do we usually tell? What do we tell you during the roster reviews? Right before you cut these guys, send out an offer for any.
Not cut. Not
no,
cut.
no. I know. But what am I saying? I'm just using the conversation, Scott. I'm just saying, when we do a roster review, because I keep mentioning roster review because I want people to get roster reviews. When we do a roster review, one of the things we'll point out is players that you should try to move for any fourth that you would normally just cut, right? Like Jalen Polk. What do you want to give me for Jalen Polk? You know what? Give me a third for Jalen Polk. They say, I will give you $15 in fab. You know what? You got a deal. You drive a hard bargain. You take Jalen Polk off my hands for that $15. Quentin Johnston. Can I get a third for him? No, but I'll give you 2/4. Okay. See you around, QJ. Have a nice career, my friend. That's what comes to mind with liquidation, right? It's a player that generally doesn't have a ton of value. So you're kind of not forced, but you're better served taking what you can get, freeing up the roster spot, filling that roster spot with either a pick or someone off of waivers that has the exact same value.
Yes. That's what Mark's saying here. Is roster construction overrules a calculator's value, because a lot of times you are looking at the value of the player on the market, right? Which is defined by a calculator or keep trade cut or whatever you're using. But then let's be honest, Shane, there's players that are more valuable to my team than your team, and it's the same player.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been in a spot where you really didn't want to move a player and you know you should have? Because you're like, I kind of need this player in this one spot a little bit more than the market dictates the return. You're not even disagreeing with the market. But let's talk running backs real quick. Veteran running backs that are fearful of getting replaced, or not replaced, but impacted, right? So let's throw out the names like Aaron Jones, James Conner, those types. Like, probably trading for a future second is about the best you can get, right? Would you agree?
Yeah.
But there are probably certain teams where you're like, well, I'd like to hang on to like one or two of these guys, just because I know in my league to replace them, it's going to be harder for me. I'm going to have to go put in more work and probably pay the same price to replace them. And I'd like in this current window to have maybe not 5 of those guys, but I don't want to just sell all of them because of their market. And that's because the value to my roster construction is X, but the value to somebody that has tons of them or doesn't care about running back production this year, the value to their roster construction is 0. It is whatever the market is. Give me that.
So let me just, look, I know people hate, you don't want to talk about your own leagues, but this league actually, come on, man. This actually speaks to this, right? So I traded Jordan Mason last night or this morning. I don't remember. Most of the days are a blur, for a 2027 second. The reason I did so is because my current running backs are Travis Etienne, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, Damian Martinez, DJ Giddens, a couple other guys in there. I have Jordan Mason's on my roster already. You know what I don't have? 27 seconds. I have.
And you got a second. Is that a Devy league?
No.
You already did the startup with rookies?
Yeah. Sorry, we did. Yeah, we did. It was
I
an
mean,
auction
you're
startup
talking
with
about you
rookies in it.
already have rookies and it's
Yeah.
March. So
Sorry.
it had to
I
be
thought that was,
something.
yes, it was a startup auction with the
Okay.
rookies in it. But yeah, so and when I was drafting this team, that was what was in my head. I get enough of these guys, I'm going to move them for a liquid asset because I don't need 15 of them. You know what I mean? I don't need 8 of them. I can live with probably 4 to 5 to 6 of those types of players, to be quite honest with you, if I really want to get slim.
Yeah, I mean, and this goes for all positions. I mean, we haven't really talked about the auto accept trade block, but I think the big key behind that and why it works is you have to put prices out there that somebody's willing to accept, right?
Yes.
Like some people will put, this player for any second. It's like, dude, nobody's going to give you that because you're pricing up. You're trying to put something on clearance, or you're trying to highlight an item. You know how when you go to a store, they'll put the items that they really want to sell right by the checkout line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is that candy right there? And then all the other ones are over there. It's like, obviously they're having a sale, or, there's a promo from the vendor or something like that. But you're not trying to sell those for double the price. Do you know what I mean? You're trying to sell them. Not for more, maybe not even for less, but you're just trying to get the deal done. And a lot of times that is where like the auto accept trade block works, is because you've acknowledged that for your roster construction in your Jordan Mason example, you're just above kind of where you need to be at running back. There might be another team where someone would go, oh, I'll just send Shane a pick for Jordan Mason. And he'll go, nah, I'd like to keep him on this roster. And that's okay. Like when you have 30 plus leagues like we do, it's easy to play the leagues against each other, Like I don't want to have 0 Jordan Mason, but it doesn't mean I wouldn't sell a couple of them after he went to the Vikings, because he probably can be sold over the last couple of weeks because he went to a new team. People like him. Yes. People think the Vikings apparently now will not touch a running back in the draft because they have Jordan Mason. But anyway, anything else to say about the liquidation or the auto accept? I mean, I think it's obvious, but the takeaway is just when it's a 1-for-1 and it's like, oh, liquidate that guy for a second, liquidate that guy for a third. Like a lot of times when people will message me and say, maybe it's the other way, Shane, should I buy this player for the 204? And this is where I wanted to get this topic out there. This is why I thought of this episode in the first place. People ask me all the time, trades, hey, should I buy this player for the 205? And I mean, you ever get those questions and your answer is like, sure, if you want to, you know what I mean? Sure, if you like that player and you just want Tajay Spears on your roster, sure, pay the.
Well, here you go. Cool. Well, but what do we usually ask, right? Well, are you going to start this player? Like, is this a player that's going to be starting in your roster? Are you just trading the 205?
Why are you trading for him? Right. Because I'm not the person and you're not the person to go to. Maybe you are more than me because you'll just tell somebody, yeah, that guy sucks. I don't want to trade him. Yes. But I'm looking at it more of, is this player usable to you? If the answer is yeah, because of your league or because of your format, or you really want to get this guy, there's usually a bigger picture as to why somebody's asking the question. It's like, oh, I know this team in the league really likes him, and I think I can flip him for more if this happens in the draft. Like, you're not giving me that information. You're just saying, should I give up this pick for this player? And a lot of times my answer is just, sure. Because very rarely is it just so obvious that it's a yes or a no. Most of the time, there's some sort of context that we need to know. And the first and foremost thing is, how does that person fit on your roster? What fits your roster better, the pick or the player? And why? And that's the answer. Anything else on that before we move on to another type? Let's take some questions. We got some questions in the chat. Let's hit those.
Let's knock a couple of these out. This is a lengthy one, but my man was in here. He's the first one, so I got to get him. It's like 16 parts, so this is not going to go well. Gavin Emons. Expansion draft you guys previously commented on. His team one has May, Herbert, Nix, Bryce Young, Brees, Chase Brown, B-Rob, Pacheco, Smith, Tyreek, Juwan Jennings, Purcell 107, and all his 26 picks in the 112. Other team, Dak, Penix, Mixon, AJ Brown, Rice, Ayuk, Waddle, Cup, Kittle, Njoku, some other picks. Expansion help. Any suggestions? Moves to make post expansion. Okay, this is a little. This isn't actually trade related at all.
Well, do we know that? Do we know? Because I think there's some discussion. Do we know the format though? 10, 12 team. What is it?
I'm not really sure because these are two different teams. I'm not really sure what the question is here, to be quite honest.
Gavin, if you're in the chat, give us the format. Okay,
There you
same.
go.
12 teams start 10. Okay, just
I'm just
Gavin did it. Shane just didn't put the question up.
In the same 12-team league, start 10 PPR, no tight end premium. Send Garrett Wilson and the 105 for CD and a 26 third. He currently rosters 8 wide receivers, 1 through 3. He currently rosters 8 wide receiver 1s through wide receiver 3s.
I mean, this is a good roster construction question, right? Like let's just assume I read that as he has 8 top 36 receivers.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
We don't know who they are, right? But we know he's got a good receiver room and he's got multiple bodies. Would you do this? If you're already telling me I have 8 top 36 receivers, and obviously I have Garrett Wilson, and I'm guessing Garrett Wilson is not my best receiver, do I need to do this deal? Or would I rather use that 105 to upgrade somewhere else?
You really don't. I'm just going to assume you have 2 top 12 wide receivers.
Let's assume he's got 2 better than Garrett Wilson and then 5 lower. So Garrett Wilson's like your 3. Would you do this deal, or are you kind of just fine with what you have? And wouldn't you rather upgrade with the 105 at another position than just pay for a receiver upgrade?
Yeah, if I'm paying for a receiver upgrade in this situation, these circumstances, I'm probably trying to do it with another wide receiver, not a 105, a more fungible asset that I can use elsewhere. I understand that if you're pulling your wide receivers together like Voltron to get the Mega Voltron, I don't know what the big one is, CD Lamb, I get that, but I don't know that I would add the 105. Look, Voltron was on a long time ago, Scott. I don't remember.
Good thing you came prepared with that analogy for the trade. You crushed it. So wouldn't this be a spot for a cross-positional trade where you take Garrett Wilson in the 105 and you're trying to go get the
Bijan?
You're trying to get Brock Bowers or Bijan or an elite quarterback in a deal.
Right.
Even if you have to add another piece to get an elite quarterback. Like you're trying to do something. But the key there that maybe people missed a little bit was his construction, right? He already had good receivers, and he had enough receivers that even if he doesn't get this deal, guess what you could probably do, Shane? Liquidate one of your receivers because you don't need 8 for maybe you can trade, I don't know who his wide receiver 6 is. Maybe it's Jalen Waddle, Jordan Addison, someone like that. Like sell one of those guys just for a future first and then go take the 105 in the first and see what you can do with that. And it's effectively doing the same thing, but you're trading from your excess and working on a deal somewhere else because your roster construction is good.
Right.
So,
right. And I just wanted to put this up. Ty DeClaire, he puts in the league check. First offer of XXXX gets it done. Prefer Fab. Yeah. I like doing that too. I mean, we all learned that from Scott, the auto trade block, right? Like it took MFL to the trade block on MFL and really utilized it. Just saying, look, I'll just take this, give me this, and we're done. We don't have to talk about it. It's just like, like sex with a stranger. You don't have to talk, and you just get it done and move on.
All I see in that message is Ty puts first offer gets sex for Fab.
Exactly. That is illegal in a lot of places. In a 12 by 10 Superflex PPR, 0.25 point per first down, he got offered CD for JSN and James Cook. He feels like he should accept that, right? 12 by 10, Nasty Nate. Nasty Nate, when you put these in there, give us a little more context. But point per first down, PPR FD. I'm sorry. Point per rushing first down.
It's point per first down. Point per receiving first down. It's just PPR. Okay. 0.4. It could be receiving or rushing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's just point per first down, but maybe he can clarify. But what's your thought? This could be a deal where I could see somebody taking JSN and James Cook. If they're just saying, JSN and CD Lamb can be within, 10% of each other.
No, they're not. I mean, look,
I'm not saying that they will be, but you could see the logic of this is a pretty strong 2-for-1 deal, right? Where someone could say, I kind of like the 2 because I'm getting 2 guys I can definitely start. Point per. Okay, that increases James Cook's value a little bit.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you.
James Cook's going to add another 40 points because of that rule. or not 40, but he's going to get probably 40 first downs.
Yeah, I got you.
So call it an extra point per game-ish, something like that.
The fact that it's point per rushing first down does make me a lot more apt to take that deal and not to be it's going to depend on what the rest of my roster looks like, really. Excuse me. Obviously, I prefer CD, but if there could be context that would change that. But for now, I would hold on to CD because CD is a hammer. And I've talked about, hammer wide receivers stay hammer wide receivers for a very long time.
Yeah, someone put in here, Shane's teaching math.
Hey, and I did it
God
well.
help us. Math class with Shane. That would be a hell of a show.
And it went well. I like black.
Dynasty math with Shane.
Oh, all right. Jason Hall, 12 by 11 PPR, Superflex, 6-point passing touchdown, 1.0 tight end premium, sending Higgins and Muth for Knicks. He has A-Rich, Love, a chain, B-Rob. He named no other quarterback than Love, so yes, I'm doing this deal. It's 12 by 11. I'm doing this.
I agree. The answer is yes to Jason's trade that he's getting offered. Let's throw a different player in there besides Freiermuth, though. Let's say it's a better tight end. Let's say it is, I don't know who would be, let's not even say a tight end, but let's just say it's another starter. What would you do then? Let's say it's George Kittle, Higgins and Kittle for Knicks.
And a 1.0 tight end premium, I'm holding on to Kittle.
Okay, but that changes the math, right? Because that team had Love and Richardson, right?
Yeah, which is not good.
Now, what do you want to do if you have Richardson, Shane?
Me? Can I get Daniel
Jones?
There's
two things you'd want to do with Richardson. I know one of them is to sell him, right?
Can I get Daniel Jones in a third for him? Just make
that's selling him, correct?
Yeah, just make the bet.
But if you're stuck with him, what do you not want to do? Have him on your bench, waiting for him to have more insulation. It's like if he's my QB2 and I can't get shit for him, what I don't want to do is trade for another quarterback to then bench him and just eat the starts that he's actually going to get because he may not get more than like 5 more. You know what I mean? Like if he's your QB2 and you're stuck with him, you just play him. You don't trade for a third QB. And now you're like, well, what do I do with Richardson? And then you try to trade him and you can't move him. So that would be a tricky one where, sure, I would take that deal because it's Higgins and Freiermuth for Knicks. I would just take Knicks. I don't even care what else I have.
Yeah.
But if it was a better asset, I'm like, I don't need to buy the Knicks there unless I have another deal with Richardson or unless I can count Richardson in the trade.
Correct.
One more, then we'll get to the last trade archetype that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, I kind of like this. I know it's not a trade. We're talking trades. I'm scrolling up. All right. One last trade. Carl Strickland, 12-team Superflex. Start 10, 6-point passing touchdown, PPR, 1.5 tight end premium. He sent Fields and Tracy for Hawk in the 303 and the early to mid 26 second. His QB room is Baker, Penix, Darnold after the deal.
Well, we didn't even rehearse this, but this leads actually into our last type of trade that we're going to talk about. But this is definitely one where you had excess, right? And so you're basically not attached at all to Fields. He doesn't really fit your construction. You could use him, but then you're like, man, I got to move Darnold. I got to move Penix. Like those guys are probably even harder to move, especially Darnold than Fields. So you're trading the one that definitely has a market. Put it back up.
Oh, well, I already hit it. I have no idea where it is.
Hit that trade question.
There's absolutely no way. No chance I'm finding that again.
Okay. So point is you also added stuff to get the upgrade, right? You not only traded from your excess, but you added to get the upgrade. Do you know what the last trade type that I'm going to bring up, Shane, that we've talked about the last couple nights on roster reviews? You have any clue?
No.
You don't? Okay.
I'm blanking out.
Get our screen share.
Surprise me. You make sure your screen share is straight.
Yeah, I don't have oh my gosh. Anybody that watched Shane Says, I still cannot figure out how that happened. So give me well, you know what? We're going to start by searching. We're going to go Max Assets 3. Okay. And shout out to Jeremy. I saw him in the chat earlier, dynasty-daddy.com. Max Assets 3. So what I'm trying to do here, Shane, is trade a future first. You know where I'm going now? If I'm trading a future first?
Oh, get multiple starters.
I want multiple starters, not just, I'm not interested in trading a future first for one singular player, because a lot of times you're not getting a player that's worth more than a first. You're getting, cool, I got DK Metcalf. You know what I mean? Great. I got a starter. Don't want to pay a first for him, but that's probably what somebody wants to trade him away. So let's go. You want to go 26 or 27?
27.
Okay, let's go 20. Do we have 2027 in here? Yeah. Any 2027 first. So let's see if you're willing to sell your single future first. It can be 26 or 27. And it's a start 10 or more. So I did some filters. So we're not looking at start 9, start 8. It's start 10 or more. Let's look at some of the deals and see. I'm going to widen the range a little bit because these don't have to be sensitive to the last 10 days. Let's widen the range to about the last 6 weeks. So many trades. We had 289 trades where a single first in 2027 was traded for pieces. And hopefully it's not involving 25 picks, but it could be. All right. So we're going to focus on the 2-for-1s. I don't know what that person was doing, but okay. Ricky Pearsall and Christian Watson for a 27 first.
Ricky Pearsall.
That is a bad example, right? Because the second piece there,
bad.
Christian Watson doesn't count.
Yeah, I traded for Christian Watson today, but it involved Hollywood Brown, so whatever. Anyway, but no, I would not do that.
Level assets. Here's an interesting one: Breece Hall and a 27 first for Ashton Genty.
Man, that is pot committed to Ashton Genty, man.
That's not exactly what I'm referring to, but that is what we were just talking about, where you're kind of looking at those two in the short term. Maybe similar. You don't know where Genty's going to go yet, right?
Yeah, I
And
don't.
you're getting a free first to play with.
I don't have the cojones to do that. I'm taking the Breece Hall side.
All right, I want to try to find a deal where someone sends a first for 2 starters. It looks like it's going to be a little harder than I thought. Here's one. 27 first for Ricky Pearsall and Jaylen Warren. Is that enough in a start 10?
No, because I'm not starting Ricky Pearsall, so he's not a starter to me.
Okay, and that's the reasoning why, right? Is like what you're getting has to be pieces you're going to use.
Yeah,
if it's just Pearsall's on my bench and Warren is on my bench, why give up the flexibility when those guys are probably much more closer to replacement value on your roster, right?
Right.
See if there's any others that are interesting. There we go. Okay, in a 12-team start 11. 27 first, you get Darnell Mooney and Justin Fields. Mooney's probably a real fringe flex.
I mean, start 11, he's starting.
And Fields. You like that?
No.
You'd probably want to sell, but at the point, you can see why someone would do that in a start 11, though, right? If they're betting on their first being low and late.
Yeah.
Okay. I love this. Someone said
I like the deal that we broke out for Kanja last night or the night before better, where he was getting 2 legitimate starters, like no doubt about it, starters.
Yeah. I love
because that's what you want to do. Yeah.
I love that pack rat ad. I've used a mover twice in the last 4 days. Of course, I get the mover ads. Oh, okay. Let's see what else we got in here. If you got any more like this, I have to go to the next page. No. Looking for 2-for-1s, 2 players. There's one. 27 first for Hollywood Brown and Jaden Reed.
See, these people are that's Jaden Reed and Hollywood Brown. If Hollywood Brown was Mike Evans, yes.
If they were okay.
No, if it was Mike Evans and Jaden Reed, I would understand. I would be okay with making that deal as needed.
How do you analyze the math when you're trying to say, okay, Jaden Reed's not worth a first, but like 2 Jaden Reeds could be worth a first? What's the logic that goes through your head? Is it just about what you need? Is it about what you could maybe sell them for later? I mean, how do you kind of class? Because I could tell you Hollywood Brown is just as much of a starter as a receiver that has more dynasty value, but you just may like one more than the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Hollywood Brown has no hopes of ever having dynasty value again. Jaden Reed does. People like Jaden Reed a lot. So yeah, maybe I could turn around and flip Jaden Reed if I wanted to. But really, the first part of the equation is, can I start these 2 dudes? Like, are they better than the options that I have now on my roster already? And is it enough are they enough better? Are they better by a wide enough margin that it makes sense to make this deal?
I would assume Tajay Spears and Isaiah Pacheco for a first is bad.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see if there's any others. It's a lot harder to find these types of deals than I thought. Let's do one more page, see if we find any that are interesting. Here's another one involving Justin Fields. Justin Fields and Wan'Dale Robinson for a 27 first. Again, the second piece just is not really that inspiring here, right? It's got to be maybe a tier above. Now, this is a start 12. But so at least in a start 12, you can see where somebody's like, I need one more player. You know what I mean? Like the cost was probably Fields, but then you got another piece in a start 12 that you can live with maybe having to play. I could see that. Sam Darnold and Javonte Williams for a 27 first.
Again, the second piece is so bad that no, I can't do that.
Okay.
If you could add some of these trades together into one person or one deal, like this one, Jalen McMillan. All right, good start. And then Devon Vele. Like, what? No. What are we doing?
So it is the conclusion by looking at these deals that some of these trades are harder to get for 27s than you think, getting two legitimate starters in a start 10.
Yeah, it's much harder. Look at it. You can't. Like, we haven't seen one that I'd be comfortable actually making, right? The closest I came was Darnell Mooney.
Let's do 26s because maybe people are more hesitant to give up a 26 because it's closer. Let's do any 26 first for the same thing. See how many deals went down. I thought 27 might have a little more steam. Okay, we have a bigger sample size with 26. We got none that I see thus far. Come on, where's the two players?
Man, this seems to be what I'm seeing.
It's not a popular trade type.
It's an untapped market, apparently. Apparently, it's an untapped market.
How about Marvin Mims and Zach Charbonnet? Is that how you want to use your first?
Wow, no, I would not like that. Yeah, dude, this is completely like people just don't make this deal, and I don't know.
Okay, Cooper Kupp and Justin Fields.
I have no faith in Cooper Kupp at this point in his career.
I thought we might get somewhere. Yeah, because and you know why? Because people don't think to send it. And a lot of times you have to find the manager that you can look at their roster and say, okay, they may be incentivized to want to sell all these players individually.
Right.
But the best chance of them getting a first, and really the best roster to do this with, is the one that's kind of in the middle, where they're not really sure how far they can go, but they don't want to trade their own first away yet.
You know what?
As soon as you make the deal where you get Derrick Henry and, I don't know, Geno Smith, right? Like, that's the trade you get for the first. Maybe you throw in a third or something like that. As soon as they do that deal, that kickstarts them wanting to get rid of everything else off their team. Like, they needed that push. That's why you would propose that type of trade to somebody, just to see what they would bite. See if they will tell you they're interested in getting a first, and you'll go, I'm not giving you a first for Henry. No one's giving you one for him in this league. So you're not going to turn him into one unless you combine it into another piece. Jalen Warren and Sam Darnold, again, another one that's just
closer.
Not.
I mean, it's closer.
1.5, Rashid Shaheed and George Kittle for a first.
1.5 tight end premium. I get it.
Yeah. No, doesn't do it.
Yeah.
See if there's any others. I'm going to do one more page because these are fun to look at. People just don't.
They don't make these deals. Done. J-Mac made the point, this is kind of hard this might be hard to manage your roster construction with. But you would think the person giving up the two starters is just getting.
There we go. Alvin Kamara and Tyreek Hill.
Absolutely.
That's like selling your soul, but you can easily see where someone would say, you know what? If I sell this pick, this is a playoff pick if I get those two players. You can see that one, right?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, last one. See if there's any more. No. Well, we'll leave those there. I thought that was interesting to look through those to see that it's not a clear common trade type at all, Shane. At all. No one even tries.
And it's got to be like the perfect conditions for life, right? Like, you need a certain amount of oxygen, you need a certain amount of water, and it has to be liquid. It can't be frozen in order for life to survive. And that's basically the trade 27, 26, 25 pick for two starters, right? Kanja's team, when we did the roster review the other night, it was set up perfectly for that. And there was just happened to be teams in his league that fit.
Well, I just did it the other day where I traded the well, I kind of did it the opposite way. I traded more pieces, but I ended up really doing the same thing where I just took a team's basically all of their running backs, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I really only gave up 2 valuable picks, but I ended up with 4 running backs.
I think
it completely flipped my construction to a point where I can do whatever else I want with the picks, because now I've added a bunch of running back ammo to my team. It was like a 3 for 4 or a 2 for 4 versus it being a 1 for 2, but the same logic applied. You know what I mean? I got the volume in a league where the volume mattered. It's a start 12. What else? A couple more questions. We got 5 more minutes. What do you want to talk about?
Hit this one. Jason Hall tried to add A-Rich to Nick's trade, but he didn't want him. Makes sense to do this trade as long as I can also move A-Rich, but nobody wants him. LOL.
Well, let's talk about that. Obviously, if you're trading for a quarterback, just like the team that had A-Rich and Love, right? Like you were trading for Knicks. So the first thing you want to do is get credit for, I mean, Shane, you've bought a car before, right?
I have, yes.
If you're trading in a car, don't you want to get credit for the car you have?
You would like to, yes. Absolutely.
Right. Now, what if the place you're buying the car says, well, Shane, I don't want your old car. It's been in 11 accidents. I'm not interested. Makes it harder if you buy the car, right? Because you're probably like, well, I have 2 cars now. I don't need 2 cars. I would like to trade in one to even get 20% off the new car. But no, and that's what's happening here, right? Like, yeah, I want to get Bo Nix, but you need to pay the full freight. I don't want a quarterback, especially Anthony Richardson, back in the trade. So what do you do then? Like, what if A-Rich is your QB2, but the person in the league says, I don't want Anthony Richardson? What do? You can't get him towards credit in the deal. Do you still pay your best skill player for Bo Nix? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're going to have to go to another dealership with that broken down car and see if they'll take it and try to recoup some of the money you spent on that new car, I think, is probably your best.
Or could you just maybe pivot to just driving the old car a little longer?
You could.
So you ride Richardson. You count Richardson as one of your starters this year. Yes.
So it completely breaks down. All right. We don't have a lot of time left.
Thank you for the super chat, Jason.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you.
It actually led right into the conversation that we were comparing Anthony Richardson to used cars that are about to shit can for life at some point.
Yeah. Jamar Chase for Bijan and 2 firsts. I don't know what type of league I would not accept the Bijan and 2 first side in.
It's a inactive league where it's a start 7 and no one values picks at all. You'll have to make these 2 picks in 2 years, Shane.
There you go. That's the type of league I won't make this team on.
And that's why format and that kind of shit matters, right? Because like on the surface you would do this, but a lot of times these trades get made in leagues where that exact thing is happening. No one will trade for those picks ever. They'll never have any value.
So you have a bunch of them and they're useless. Hey, Scott, what's your podcast name? From Mason Villa.
Well, Mason, I saw you put this in the comments. I'm sorry I didn't respond to. I think he put it on Twitter too. Well, the only podcast I currently do is Destination Dynasty, which is every like 3 to 4 weeks on DD Radio. And then the follow-ups are on the DD YouTube or DD FFB. And so for the next 6 weeks, they're all going to be on DD FFB. So that's where the podcast is. Now, we need to be better. We need to be better at putting the YouTube shows on the podcast feed.
Yes.
So that's where DD Fantasy Radio, you can find all the podcasts that we actually managed to get on the feed, but not all of them get there.
Also, you could just turn on YouTube and listen to it like a podcast. You can YouTube has a setting, even for us poors, where you can up the playback speed up to 2.0 if you're one of those people like Scott, me, or anyone we know.
Dude, I got YouTube Premium and I listen on 4.0.
Right. That's just stupid. But if you want to listen on 2.0, you can still listen to it on YouTube. So we can also still get those views. But also, check out the DDFB or the DD Fantasy podcast channel, but watch it on YouTube. We need the views. So hit like and subscribe if you haven't done that while you're here. We truly appreciate that.
Shane, we got 1 more minute. So you get to pick one question from the hopper. We have like 10 comments in there. Pick one.
Oh,
I don't care what it is.
Dude that I'm completely making up asks, hey, do you guys have a discount code so that I can join ddfantasyfootball.com? We most certainly do. It'll be in the description to this ad. It's Manic and Chill, I believe, for the GOAT tier. And
you can use this one.
yes.
Go in the link.
Yeah.
It's in the description. Don't even listen. Just go click the link. It's easier because I think it's Manic and Chill, but I can't see it right this second. But yeah, it's in the description. Click on it. You get 50% off the first month. Once you're in the community, like we're just hanging out all day. So.
And also, let me pimp the other shows. Make sure you're checking out Dynasty Theory live on Monday nights.
Yeah.
Live on Monday nights. Scott has a show that drops every Sunday. He just talked about that. Or Monday
morning.
Right. And we'll be doing
bright and early.
Right. Yes, we do have a discount code for DD Fantasy Football. Last question. We won't shill anymore. Can I package Ford J.K. Pollard for a second to draft a rookie running back? And should I?
So in a 12 by 15.
No.
And you get the 211. Would you do this, Shane?
Absolutely
in a 12
not.
by 8 where you get the 201. Would you do this?
Yes.
I mean, that's where the format completely changes the answer, right? I mean, is it Julio? Is that how you'd say the name?
Julio.
I think it's probably Julio. I should have just assumed I was right to say it. I mean, what do you want to give? I don't know if he's in the chat or she's in the chat. Can you give the format? Because I do think the format matters here. Like, there's a lot of leagues where, guess what? I like seconds, and I like Tony Pollard, and I like J.K. Dobbins. Right. There's other formats where I would certainly package them to get something better.
Kanja, Sean, if you're listening, go ahead and make that trade with Kanja, Herbert Lamb trade he sent you a few days ago. And now I'll pimp we did that on a roster review with Kanja. It is now 9:01, Scott. So
I'm going to put the roster review up, Manic and Chill review at gmail.com. It will be live on the site soon, so we can just literally show the link instead of have to put this banner up there. But yeah, you get roster reviews. They're fun. We literally will just sit down with you for 45 minutes and talk about your team, go through a lot of these, go through trades, go through the war. I mean, pretty much anything you want to talk about, or we just record one for you. You don't have to be there. Some people like to be there in person to talk. Other people are just like break down my league. You probably get more information when you get the recorded ones, but you get, I think, better conversation when you're in the room. You know what I mean? Because you get to actually ask questions that branch off of things that maybe we wouldn't have caught when we do the recording. So check that out. Again, Manic and Chill review at gmail.com. It'll be live on the site here soon. Support all the other creators. If you haven't liked, please like the video, like and subscribe to the channel. We will engage in the comments. Till then, Shane, we're out. Enjoy the NCAA tournament. Go Kentucky Wildcats. Peace. See ya.